Start. It's just a couple of minutes after, and I think I have this Zoom set up to where people can join at any time. I'm again, the learning curve for me on Zoom has been really steep. Every time I do one, I learn something new.
No.
Now I'm recording these, and it will go to records to my computer, and I'll be posting this video to my YouTube channel afterwards with a link from my website, so that if anybody misses it, wants the information, they can find it easily enough through Northwest Travel.
Yeah.
So okay, well, everybody, welcome. I've got a little presentation here and a kind of a slideshow that I did on PowerPoint that I find helps me stay on track and organized, because I tend to drift a little bit. And I want to introduce Marty and Leighton Wingate, who are here with us. And Marty is our gardener and author, and takes these garden tours with me. And Leighton is our real ale aficionado. And I don't know if there's a degree, if you have a degree in that, Leighton, or if it's just a hobby.
Mostly a hobby, yeah. If I could get a degree, I probably would.
Yeah, great. It wouldn't be like work.
That's right.
Okay, well, let's start it off then. And Marty, feel free to interject if you've got some things to say about gardens and so on.
Sure.
I'll start by saying this tour of the Cotswolds, I don't know, this is our 4th or 5th visit to the Cotswolds between you or Cisco. I think I've been there a number of times.
Yeah. We've done 2 or 3 of them.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah. So, because I think of all the garden tours we've done, there's no better place in the Cotswolds for a wealth of options to go to. If one garden's closed, you've got 5 others that are just as good. So anyway, let's start off here. Did everybody see my display on screen? Is it sharing okay?
Yeah, we see it, Arlington Row. And oh, by the way, I'll interject immediately. Just follow that path up the hill to the right, and we end up at Victoria's house.
Okay. All right. So this is a description I stole from Wikipedia today about specifically what the Cotswolds is. So it's a very unique area. Cotswolds goes back to back when they were raising sheep for wool and for, I assume, mutton as well back in the day. But it again probably has more gardens that you'd want to see per square foot than any place I've ever been. This tour, which was originally scheduled for this July, or we were supposed to do this last year?
Yes.
Yes, last year in 2020, moved to 2021, and then in an unofficial poll of the group, or a very official poll of the group, there was a bit of a mutiny, and over half the people said, no, we're not going this year. So that kind of forced us to revamp again and reschedule for next year. And thankfully, in all my experience, the last 12, 13 months, in moving 9 or 10 different trips around and only having to actually cancel one ocean cruise, that most vendors have been fantastic about being able to move things. So they're not getting money back, but they are allowing rescheduling without any sort of penalty, which is nice. The one and only place I've found so far that has completely said no is for Scotland this August, is the Tattoo Festival, has absolutely said no to any kind of refund on the tickets for the big show. So that's it. In everywhere else, entire cruise 120 people cruises have been moved from one year to the next, not just once, but in one case twice, with no penalty. And I'm thankful for that, because otherwise it would have made my life a disaster. Anyway, we are going. Here's Marty's page. And see, Marty, I did lift this from your website.
Good.
It was perfect. Yeah. So that's a little bit about Marty and and I did read one of your books, Marty. I can't remember which one I read now.
Wow.
I hate to say I didn't buy it. I downloaded it from the library app, but
Well, there you are. That's all right. Library, we like libraries, so.
okay. All right, good. So this tour is limited to 16 people. Right now, I have 14 people booked, unless we lose one or two more from the reschedule. There are a couple of people that still haven't fully committed, and I have to say we may well be sold out, because I did get an email from somebody this morning asking me about dining and whether the rooms had 2 beds or just 1 bed. So I think they're mulling that over too. So it may well be that we're going to be sold out of this tour, which is a great problem to have a year in advance. It makes it easier to schedule things. So this is a little bit about Northwest Travel and me, and my focus is now garden touring and food and wine experiences, not just limited to the US and Europe, but just about all over now. In addition to this tour and a lot of river cruises in France, I have a Cisco tour planned for Scotland in August, South Africa in November, provided the world reopens and we're able to go to these places. If not, again, we'll look at pushing those back. But I've been in the travel business since '82 and had my own company established in 1984 with a couple of partners who are no longer my partners. I'm doing this all by myself now, and I've worked from a home office since 1984. So all this COVID shutdown is nothing new to me, other than I have to now share my home office with someone else, which has been more difficult than I thought it was going to be. So for a while toyed with taking baseball and football fans on the road for Seahawks and Huskies and Mariners, and that was it was interesting for a while. But I got to say, it's when your success or failure of the tour depends on how well your team did. That was never a lot of fun. I mean, I got to go to a lot of ballparks and see a lot of games, but frankly, I can't sit through a whole baseball game anymore. I've seen way too much. So the garden tours, Marty and I at Cisco, I've been working with both of them for, I believe it's now over 20 years of doing these tours, which has been fantastic. And I'm not a gardener myself, because frankly, I'm too lazy. But I do love a good garden when I go, when I'm able to see one. So that's a little bit about Northwest Travel. Talk a little bit about this itinerary. We changed it a little bit from when it was originally scheduled 2 years ago, is that we added a London option, because when we moved the dates, it just happened to coincide with the Royal Hampton Court Flower Festival. Now they changed the name of it to Flower Festival. But so we're going into London for 2 nights and doing some touring there. We're going to attend a Members Day on at the flower show, which is at Royal Hampton Court, which is on the River Thames, actually out by Heathrow Airport on the way to Heathrow. It's not, it doesn't have the prestige, say, that Chelsea does, but Chelsea takes place in May, and a few times I've been there, I think 2 out of 4 times was so cold and miserable that I never wanted to go back. May is not a great time for gardens in London.
Well, and also the thing about Hampton Court is, yeah, better weather, we can assume. Although we have been there during a shower before. Nobody cared. Well, it's like here. Nobody cares. Who cares about a shower? But the thing about Hampton Court is that there's a lot more room there. Chelsea can be so crowded. I know, Brad, I don't know if you've stayed more than 10 minutes in Chelsea before, but the grounds at Hampton Court are expansive. So you never feel too crowded there.
Yeah, they have the room out there to expand, and Chelsea is in a very confined area. And I think they're selling a lot more tickets to Chelsea than they will admit to, because yeah, I'm a bit claustrophobic anyway, but yeah, I really have no desire to go back to Chelsea Flower Show. So then we leave London, we take the train to Bath, and we're there for 3 nights. Quite a few gardens to see in the area. We're also going to do a tour of the Roman baths there and a walking tour of the city. From there, we go to a little village called the Slaughters or Lower Slaughter, and we're staying at a country resort. I wouldn't call it a resort, a country inn that is very well thought of, nice menu for dinner and so on. Again, quite a few gardens in that area. And I have more information in the specific itinerary before we then head on to Oxford, which is our last place on the itinerary. We hope to have a pub or a drink in the Eagle and Child pub, which was made famous by a number of authors. What was their group called again?
The Inklings.
The Inklings, that's right. Tolkien and
C.S. Lewis.
Lewis. So anyway, and we did have a drink there before. So and then that's it in a nutshell. That's the overview of the tour. This is the itinerary that I have on my website with links to all the various places that are suggested, including the gardens. Now, I will say that this itinerary is based on last year and has been modified a little bit. It's quite probable that some of the specific gardens and timing and dates may be moved around here. So again, as I mentioned, if we can't get into one garden in the Cotswolds, there's another that's going to be just as good. And Marty has some suggestions early on about going to an estate garden. I can't remember which one, but I haven't made that update. So once I have the numbers put together and the people in the UK are actually answering their phones again, we'll get around to putting this, to hammering out this itinerary and making it real. But this will give you an idea of what it was going to be, and it will be very similar when we get around to it. But I think, was it Iford Manor you were talking about that you wanted to go to, or?
Well, we always want to go to Iford Manor because it's one of my favorite gardens in the world. I think I also mentioned Seasoncote to you, which you're using a picture, one of our pictures on the website. And it's a fabulous, the garden's lovely, the building is fabulous and has been used recently in Poldark. They did filming for Poldark there and Father Brown. We've used it in Father Brown. So we'll be visiting lots of places that you'll recognize from television.
Yeah, it was Seasoncote, and part of the issue this year with which made it not too difficult a decision to push this tour back another year is that many of the National Trust gardens were being kind of sketchy about committing to opening or not, and they said, well, why don't you come back? Why don't you call back around Easter time, and maybe we'll have more information. And Prince Charles Garden at Highgrove had said early on that they were going to be closed and remain closed for this year, so that's one garden that is a very nice visit that we knew we wouldn't be able to get into. And no sooner had I canceled this and moved it to next year that I got an email from Highgrove saying, we're open, come visit us. So we'll make those changes next year. Our reservation at Highclere Castle, Downton Abbey has been changed already. So that's, those are the big ones. Is you schedule these big gardens and then you fill in around with gardens that might be a little more easy to get into. We're also going to Stratford-upon-Avon for lunch, have a Shakespearean walking tour of the town. Highgrove, again, we've been to Highgrove one time. It's difficult to get tickets. There's one day in February or 2 days you have to call in and make your reservation, although that all went out the window this year, of course. But next year we'll be on that and get those reservations done. So, and Awkward Hill is...
That's Victoria's garden. That's our friend Victoria Summerlee's garden. And Victoria has written several garden books. She has a book out called The Secret Gardens of the Cotswolds and 2 books on London gardens, I believe. that you may or may not find in your library. You can always ask your library to get them in. And she's created her own garden. She was an editor at the Independent in London for many years, and then moved to the Cotswolds about 6-8 years ago and created this garden. It's a wonderful garden.
Okay, so that's again, you can go back. This information will be available. It's on my website and will be updated as we make changes to this itinerary. So you can always check out the specifics. The cost for the tour is I can't read it here. $5,025 per person based on double occupancy, and there is a single supplement. Although I have to say that I'm totally sold out of singles. That's one of the issues with the garden tours. I typically have a lot of requests for singles, and then when I try to book 9 singles into a hotel, they're not all that crazy about it. They want double occupancy. So we're just about sold on this tour. Again, I think I have 2 spots left. But also once that sells out, I'll start a wait list, and the wait list always has success. People, especially since we're still 14, 16 months out, things change all the time. So, so talk a little bit about getting to the tour. We're lucky enough here in Seattle, and I'm not sure where people are dialing in from, but most major cities in the US have a nonstop to Heathrow Airport. We happen to have, I think, 4 at last count. Both Delta and British Airways or offer nonstop service, and so we'll get there around noontime, transfer to the hotel in London. On the way back, what I'm asking people to do is there's a 2:30 and 3 o'clock nonstop return, so that we don't have to race to the airport for 7 a.m. departure, because we're going to be staying in Oxford, which is at least an hour's drive from Heathrow. So airfare is running about $1,200 to $1,400, although I have seen it less. I've seen it more, but right now, airlines and fares and schedules are all still in flux. The airlines have not come back they haven't ramped up to 100% capacity, what they were doing. So once they get more schedules up there, and once people are traveling more, these fares will probably come down. But as I like to tell people, is go to a company like kayak.com. You put your city pair information in, and you can set up a flight tracker. So you'll get emails when fares are trending down or trending up. They give suggestions on whether you should be buying or waiting, which is nice. The other thing I would say about that is, as much as I like the service of the flight tracker, I don't always advocate buying your airline tickets through a third-party site like this. You're always better off going directly to the carrier, because if changes have to be made, you don't have to deal with a middleman who's just going to tell you no. And that happened this last year when COVID first started. The Travelocities and companies like that were not even answering their phone. You couldn't get through to anybody to find out if you could even make a change. And if you called the airline directly, they would say, well, we didn't issue your ticket. You need to call the people who did. So I don't even ever issue airline tickets myself anymore, even though I have the ability to issue airline tickets. Working with the airlines is a terrible experience. I'll avoid it at all costs. If people need help or they want me to help them buy tickets, I buy them directly from the airline site. That's the way I work. So it's just so much easier than dealing with a third party.
Brad, I'll just say, not that they're paying us to say this, but we've had great luck with Virgin Atlantic. We flew to England last March, which, you know, as it turned out, we had 2.5 days in London, and they were very well used. But when we had to turn around and come back, it was the easiest thing in the world. We texted them. That's what they suggested. They got back to us within the time they said they would. They said, we can book you on a plane tomorrow, and we were home. So we've had other good experiences with them.
Well, I think right now we have credits floating around out there on Virgin for you and Clayton, don't we?
No, we still have the ticket. This is it.
Yeah.
That's right. So see, Brad got us our tickets for last year. And all I had to do was text them and say, keep my ticket open.
Yeah.
And there's no change fee or anything, and it's open until December of 22. So they
Well,
did a good job.
I hope it's just either a glitch with kayak, or maybe they're not participating with kayak, but Virgin doesn't show nonstop flights right now.
Well,
and
they're
there's
not. Well, oh, you mean for later dates?
Seattle to London. They were not showing a schedule for July of this year to London. So
Yeah.
hopefully they'll come back.
Yeah.
Or,
Well, hopefully they're probably not letting anyone in the country yet. That's probably why.
it's quite possible that they don't participate with the fare finder that kayak uses. So that there are some airlines like Iceland Air, I think, didn't used to, and now I think they've come on board, but they for some reason they do not. So I will have to check that, because I forgot that we had 2 airline tickets with your names on them floating around out there somewhere. So I will check that out. Okay, so COVID, we can talk about that, since that's what everybody wants to talk about. Is right now, to go to anywhere in the UK, you're required to quarantine for 10 days. It's mandatory quarantine, self-quarantine in a hotel. I can't imagine that will be continuing long, because I just don't think it's sustainable. It's I would assume that in another 2 weeks or so, or less, with the vaccines taking hold, that will go away. But they had a variant, I guess, that was a little stronger, similar to the South Africa. I happen to be going to 2 countries that have this variant that supposedly will find you if nothing has yet. So hopefully that'll change. And I guess the only thing I can say about people that are hesitant to book is that, as I have done the last 14 months, if we can't go somewhere, if it's not safe, or we're physically unable to get into a country, we will reschedule. So that's, but I cannot imagine that we will still be having these problems a year and a half from now. It just cannot be the case. Oh, so anyway, here's the Highclere. Highclere Castle has been a great visit. Been there twice now. It's a nice visit inside, because you do see a lot of the scenes from the series, from the television series, and now the movie. The gardens are, I think the house is probably the high point of this visit. The gardens are there, but they're nothing special. But there's also time enough, if you're interested. Is the 5th Earl of Carnarvon was the funder of the expedition for Howard Carter when they discovered King Tut's tomb. And he was there when they opened the tomb. And now the 8th Earl and his wife are the people that live in the castle. They live there all the time, and were on site during the filming of much of the episodes of. But it is a nice visit. It's great to go. I'll tell you in advance, if you're looking for the downstairs portion where the servants are, that's filmed in the studio in London, so you will not see any of that part of it. But you get the idea anyway. That was just a little spoiler alert I had. So, and then just some photos of the area. Although I have to say, I think most of these are Cotswolds. Some were unlabeled, and some may actually be Yorkshire, which coincidentally is supposedly where Downton Abbey takes place anyway. So. Okay, so that is my presentation. I guess now, Marty, if you have anything to add, or if we can open it up for questions, we're ready.
Write that number down.
I am, honey. Jeez.
Great, no questions either, huh?
Well, I will say that back to Hampton Court, Brad, I don't know. Have you decided how we will get out and get back?
Haven't decided. I was planning on the subway and train, but if we have 16 people, we'll probably do a coach.
Okay.
Yeah.
We've had various experiences getting to and from Hampton Court, but I mean, it's always a great a great afternoon out there. The thing about another difference between Chelsea and Hampton Court is that Chelsea is sort of the designer's show, and you can buy a lot of things at Chelsea, but you cannot buy plants. And so you go in and the nurseries have all these elaborate displays inside, but you can't, not that we could buy any plants anyway, yeah. But at Hampton Court, people buy plants, and they buy a lot of plants. So I am fascinated what people are buying, even though I can't buy them and bring them home. It's just a really fun show to see what they're selling and what's going on.
Well, there have to be some questions.
Okay, hi, it's Fred, it's Lynn.
Hi, Lynn.
And hi, Cindy. Really excited to maybe get to do this next year. And I know that you've confirmed this for me before, but Cindy and I are going to be roommates, and those rooms will be with 2 beds of some size or another,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
There's always, I mean,
detail.
depending on the country, sometimes it's difficult to find as many rooms as you need with 2 beds, but
okay.
It's not a problem in this particular case. So,
well, you know, if we had to bunk together in a bed in a country inn for one night, be well worth it probably.
No, I think we'll have you covered there. So
okay, thanks.
No problem there.
Oh, and Marty, I only read one of your books because I'm a regular hard book reader, not an ebook reader, but I'm glad to see I can finally get some of your titles from the library in hardcover.
That's right. I have a new mystery series that has 2 books out in paper, and then I have a historical fiction that came out in January, set during World War II in England, of course. Brad, what are you thinking that people are going to have vaccine passports?
Oh, well, yeah, that's a good question. I would anticipate, since just about everywhere you go now requires a COVID test within 72 hours of your arrival, that it would make sense that will shortly shift to showing that you have a vaccine card. So here's my vaccine card. I know South Africa is talking about that. I think just about every place in the United States is talking about that, with the exception of Florida. Yeah, I would anticipate that will be the way to go. And at least for people that are going to be traveling in the next 2 years, unless there's a flare-up of this, I'm told now that even after 2 shots, there may be another booster next year that people are required to take. So
it'll be like the flu shot that we get every year.
But I mean, right now it's well. See, I don't do the flu shot. I haven't had the flu in 35 years, so I do not do the flu shot. I don't get sick. So except I'm pretty sure. I thought for sure that I actually had COVID last February after talking to Mary Morris at the garden show, because she was like a walking germ fest.
Yeah, she was.
And I just, after talking to her, I think I made myself sick mentally. But it turns out that when I gave blood, they did an antibody test, and they showed no hint of COVID in my system. So, but yeah, it's, you know, I just the France cruise that I was taking in May of 2020, I had people that were booked on that even as late as February, right when I was making the decision to put that off, saying that they were going to go no matter what. They were going to go. You know, I couldn't keep them from going to France, and it turns out I didn't have to do anything. There were a lot of other people that were keeping them from going to France. But people are, you know, some are militant about being able to travel, and I think that from a tourism standpoint, Americans still aren't being allowed into France. I think we're still not allowed into the country, and I have to assume that's got to change pretty fast. We'll have to change.
Brad,
yeah.
Brad, this is a Golders here. We definitely want a book on this one, so can you hold a spot for us? I've listed my phone number with your recording
Yeah.
So yes, we definitely want to go. There's two of us.
Okay. Yeah, I'll hold those last two spots for you. And when you get a chance, go on my website and there's a registration page that you'll find there. Fill that out and that'll send an email to me.
Okay.
Very good.
Okay.
We will do that.
All right.
So, Brad, Jen asked about where we'll be going after the Cotswold. So, should we throw some ideas out there for?
Well, that's a good question. I do not have a garden tour. I mean, I was going to say I don't have a garden tour scheduled for 2022, but I do now.
Yeah.
But 2 weeks ago I didn't. That's a good question. What are some of the ideas?
Well, I mentioned the tour we did in the north. I just love when we were at Yorkshire and we went to the Outdoor Museum and did all that. That was fabulous.
The Lake District was fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah, that would be a good spot. I was thinking even a little closer to home. I know they have some really nice gardens in Montreal and Quebec.
Oh, they do, yeah.
And that would be, a little closer, a little shorter hop to get to those places than it would. And even Charleston and Savannah, those were great destinations for those garden tours that we did there. I really had a good time there. And that was over 10 years ago. That was maybe.
Yeah, it was we did it 2 years in a row because it was so popular. Yeah, that was great. And that's a nice time to go because we were going in early March and before it got too hot there.
Yeah. And before the bugs came out. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Well, we should get together maybe over a pint and talk about where the next tour should be.
Yep.
I think that I would really be interested in Montreal, Quebec, because I have a friend that lives up in that area, so I could, try to tie something together. But I've wanted to go there for quite a long time. And I don't know if anything further east, is there anything worth seeing on Prince Edward Island? I don't know anything about that other than Anne of Green Gables or any of those areas, Acadia National Park.
Yeah,
I
I was on a cruise a couple years ago that went from Montreal around to Boston, and we spent some time in Prince Edward Island, and I don't remember seeing a whole lot there that I wanted to go back for. But there probably is some. I think when we were there, it was a pretty cold, wet day, so I don't think we were really thinking in terms of returning. But I definitely will check that out and see. It's
there
a
is
beautiful part of the world.
Jan just reminded me, La Quatre Vents is in Quebec.
Right, yeah.
And there's a book out on it. And I heard the owner, who I think died a few years ago, the creator of the garden, talk about it, and it looks fabulous.
Okay. All right. Well, whatever tour we decide on will be both on Marty's side and on my side as soon as we get something put together. But I don't know if we do 2 tours in 2022.
Well, the thing is, we haven't been able to go anywhere, so now we want to go everywhere. So sure, why not?
Yeah.
This has been the longest 10 years of my life, this last 12 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear that.
Okay. Well, any other questions? No? So again, I will put this recording on YouTube and put a link on my site to that. I think my next Zoom meeting is going to be, I think, for South Africa in another week. There's some question about Cisco's tour going. Actually, 4 people have decided that November is too early for them to travel, so I just had some spots open up on his tour. So South Africa, I'm not looking forward to 2 12-hour flights to get there, but I am looking forward to going there because it's a fantastic place. So we'll see. Okay. All right. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. And I'll be in touch with the Golders as well. And
Thank you.
good. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Brad.
All right.
Thank you.
See you later.
Thanks, Fred.
You hit me.